So you may remember that a while ago, Sarah did a video on propaganda and mind control. Well, right now she's unavailable, so I'm going to be doing the next video in the series. Our video today is going to be about propaganda and how it relates to truth. Now, a lot of the times, when people hear the word propaganda, automatically they think of lies. So, if you want to take a moment and pause the video, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think that propaganda automatically means lies? Please give us your opinion. The purpose of this video is to define what propaganda is, explain how propaganda relates to truth, and to give people a better ability to recognize propaganda when they see it. Because frankly, most everything you see every day in newspapers, magazines, television, even on the streets, it's all propaganda. In the first video of this series, Sarah explained the definition of the word propaganda. Now, propaganda comes from the same Latin root word as propagate. Propagate means to spread, so propaganda means to spread ideas. If you haven't watched that video, I strongly recommend that you watch that video before you continue watching this one. So what's the relationship between propaganda and truth? Well, the first thing I want to point out is that all propaganda is distributed with the attitude that it is the absolute truth. Think about that for a moment. All propaganda is communicated as being the absolute truth. You can define propaganda as spreading ideas, but most specifically, propaganda is spreading beliefs. The power behind propaganda is the belief in those ideas. So let's take an example, the American Revolution. That was started by a person who was printing up pamphlets and passing them around to people. Now, if people didn't believe what was written on those pamphlets, do you think we would have had the American Revolution? Of course not. So, the power behind propaganda is the belief in what you're saying. So, propaganda must be distributed as truth. So, when people hear the word propaganda, a lot of the time, they think of something negative. However, one man's propaganda is another man's truth. So let's take, for example, a Christian and an atheist. Our Christian's name is Joe. Now, Joe has a set of beliefs that he feels very strongly about, and he wants to witness or share his beliefs with other people. So he propagates his beliefs and shares his ideas. Now, does Joe think of this as propaganda? Of course not. Joe thinks of it as truth, and he believes that he is educating other people. And we also have Frank, our atheist. Now, when Frank hears Joe speaking about his beliefs, Frank says, "Hey man, I don't want to hear any more of your Christian propaganda." Well, Frank has some beliefs that he feels strongly about, and he wants to spread them to other people. So he propagates his beliefs and spreads his ideas. Does he think of it as propaganda? Of course not. He thinks of it as truth. He thinks of it as education. So again, one man's propaganda is another man's belief. So when Frank hears Joe speaking about his ideas, Frank says, "I don't want to hear any of your Christian propaganda." And when Joe hears Frank speaking about his ideas, Joe says, "I don't want to hear any of your atheist propaganda." So again, one man's propaganda is another man's truth. So in that example, we used a religious ideology. Now the same principle will hold true in other ideologies such as economic, political, and corporate. So what a communist considers to be truth, a capitalist considers to be communist propaganda. And what a Democrat considers to be truth, a Republican considers it to be democratic propaganda, etc., etc. Propaganda and public relations are quite closely related, and a lot of the times the two get confused. So a public relations firm might end up engaging in propaganda, and a propaganda department may engage in public relations. So what's the difference between propaganda and public relations anyway? Well, propaganda is the spreading of a belief or idea by use of the media. Public relations is using the media to set a public opinion or attitude on a certain specific subject. So, if you want someone to like your company, then you engage in white public relations. And if you want someone to dislike your opponent's company, then you engage in black public relations. So here's where the two overlap. Let's say that you got a job at a PR firm, and your client is ABC Hamburgers. Now their competitors are XYZ Hamburgers, and you want everybody to go to ABC Hamburgers, so what do? You start spreading propaganda that XYZ Hamburgers uses dog meat. So this is the reason why propaganda has gotten its bad name. Propaganda has been used in black public relations to soil the names of competitors and enemies. So that's a little bit about propaganda and how it relates to truth. In a future video, we're going to be talking about propaganda and how it relates to lies. And in another video, we're going to be talking about different public relations and propaganda techniques that are used to control public opinion. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something interesting, and I hope that you'll stay tuned for our future videos about mind control and propaganda. Please rate my video, and if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the boxes below. Thank you.
If you liked this video, we have hundreds of more alternative videos ranging from sexual health to psychology to mind control. So if you liked it, go ahead and click on me to enter the Psyche Truth channel.